want to thank everyone for tuning in to the 25th Hour radio show here on Monster Radio, AM 1150 and 98.5 FM WGGH. I am your host, Rob Fairless, and on the phone with me today is WSIL TV Chief Meteorologist Jim Rasor. The local community has been planning their lives around the forecast of Mr. Rasor for more than 30 years now, and recently Jim has made the announcement he plans to step away from the camera and spend a little bit more time with friends and family. Jim, thanks for taking a few minutes out of your Saturday to join me on the show.
Hi, Rob. How are you today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
We're doing all right. Thank you.
Jim, let's start off the show by talking a little bit about your beginnings, man. What was it about weather that inspired you to put all your efforts towards a career in predicting it?
Yeah, it really was growing up on a small farm. As a kid, I didn't realize it as much, but as I got a little bit older, the farm I grew up on was so small, I knew it wouldn't support generations. If it would have, I'd still be there running equipment today and raising a crop. I love that lifestyle and certainly have so much respect for all the folks that do it, but it wasn't going to work out for me. I needed to find something else. And then as I got a little bit older, high school age, I started to see things that my grandfather was losing efficiency, burning fuel on days he shouldn't have been running. And some of that came back to he just wasn't getting good weather information or the information that I felt like would have helped him. And at that point, I didn't know, how do you fix that? But I knew I wanted to look into fixing that. So I couple of different degrees in meteorology. I specialized my education at the University of North Carolina in agricultural forecasting. And that's what I wanted to do, was forecast for farmers and construction workers. We would put a crop in the field, and then we'd build a house during the summer and then harvest in the fall. And that was just my lifestyle. And those were the people I wanted to try and help. I didn't have a business plan for that. My education is in science, not in the business end, and I've never been really good at selling a service. So quite honestly, when I graduated college, I was back on the farm working construction with my dad, and the TV station called and said, "Hey, we heard about you. Would you come in? We're a little short-handed right now." So I came over. The idea was I was going to be there for a few weeks while they continued a search for their permanent person. And I learned the first time I talked to a Farm Bureau group that all of a sudden I was doing what I wanted to do, and that was get information to farmers. I was just doing it through a newscast, and I didn't have to charge them anything. And I was getting a paycheck. So in my mind, it kind of worked out for everybody, and I just let it run from there.
Now, were there any other fields of study that you were possibly interested in at that time other than weather? Put it this way, in an alternate universe, could there be a Jim Rasor working as a doctor, lawyer, or a rock and roll star?
I considered it, but I considered it for the wrong reasons. My first year of college, I was actually in a pre-med program because, again, growing up on what I call a dirt farm, we didn't have a lot of extras, and the person in my life that I saw that was the wealthy guy was my optometrist. I've worn glasses since I was a little boy, and I see this guy who's a really cool guy, and he does good things for me, but man, did he have a lot of money. So when I started college, I was actually chasing money, not chasing what I wanted to do. I learned quickly that I absolutely hated biology, but it turns out I was pretty good at physics and math. So after a year of just torture in these biology classes, I said, that's it. I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to make money or if I'm going to make money, but I'm going to go do that. It then, once I got to college and started studying this, I knew there was absolutely nothing else for me. That whether I was going to make money or not, I needed to be forecasting and helping people understand the weather. And I can't imagine doing anything else.
So you talked about this a few minutes ago. You graduated from the University of North Carolina, Asheville in '86, got your job with WSIL in 1987. Was WSIL, now you mentioned this, was it your first real job in weather, or did you get your feet wet in any other market before coming to WSIL?
Yeah, I spent some time behind the scenes while I was there in Asheville. I worked at the ABC affiliate, and I say work. I started as an intern, like so many people do. I spent a semester with the weather guy there. He and I had a great relationship. And when my internship was done, he was like, "Hey, man, any day you want to come in here and produce some graphics and hang out and do that sort of thing." So I spent time there, didn't make a dime at it, but I gained a lot of good experience and some insight. But back to your question, no, WSIL is the only paying job I've had in what I would call my adult life. I did a lot of jobs, up to and getting through college, but this has been it.
So did you say that WSIL contacted you, or did you apply?
Yeah, no, I don't tell many people this. There is one thing in life I've not done as an adult, and that is apply for, interview for, be offered, and take a job. I've gone through most of the steps involved there, but never in one process. WSIL contacted me. I came over, we worked things out eventually, their applications and all that go on, but I never applied for a job there. I had never heard of WSIL. I grew up in the Evansville, Indiana market, about a market away. So there was some kind of star alignment to get me here, because it really has worked out. It's worked out for me. I think it's worked out for the station. But yeah, no, I've never applied for and taken a job.
Well, lucky you, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've been with WSIL for over 30 years now. What was it about WSIL TV3 that made you feel content and comfortable up to the point that you knew this was going to be your career home?
Absolutely, the ownership. The television industry had, all industries have changed, but the changes that we watched in the industry, we were really insulated from that because the ownership, the Wheeler family, had worked, both Steve and Bonnie, as producers in large markets, and they knew how they wanted news done. And it was really kind of old school. They didn't necessarily want news people interacting with the business end because they wanted that separation. They wanted that purity of news. And as I talked to other friends and other colleagues at other places, I knew we weren't dealing with stuff that, quite honestly, if I'd had to have dealt with it, I don't know if I'd stayed in the business. But because the Wheelers were excellent business people, because they made money, they made the business successful, but then they let the news department be a news department, and it made it a whole lot more comfortable to go to work for me.
So let's talk about some weather highlights over your time as chief meteorologist with WSIL. I know weather can be absolutely beautiful and weather can be absolutely deadly. Do any particular weather events come to mind when thinking over the past 4 decades?
Yeah, I would assume most people would think, he's going to answer about the severe weather events. We've had some big tornado events. We had the derecho, the May 8th storm. We've had a couple of decent snowstorms in there. But I'm not a severe weather guy, so that stuff is not what comes to my mind. It's more of what I call inconvenience weather or nuisance weather. And when I heard back from the people that, when you still take it serious on those days and help those people, because again, as corny as it sounds, I've always done this to try and help people by giving them a level of information that helps them make plans. And I had one particular farmer that he would not cut his hay crop without calling me and saying, "Hey, have I got 3 days? Have I got 3 days?" Because it takes a few days to work that. And I would sit down and look and say, no, we're not going to go here. Let's think about going over here. And at the end of one season, he called me, and he actually called me on Thanksgiving Day. One thing about our business is, we work holidays. And he calls me on Thanksgiving and said, "I just want you to know you saved every one of my hay crops this summer. And that to me, those were the things that mattered. And to most people, that probably wouldn't make a bit of difference at all. But to know that not just on a severe weather day, when, everybody in my business on those days is important, but knowing that even on what to some people you're just looking for sunny days, and when you can find those and help somebody make their living, to me, that makes me feel really good.
Well, that's really cool. So I've noticed you've started a personal / business Facebook page recently under your name, Jim Rasor. Will you be continuing to update us on the weather even after retiring from WSIL?
I will never stop forecasting. Back to my original intent, I think it was one of those that I was just ahead of my time. And I had already seen, I don't know if you're familiar with acoustic couplers. Before there were modems, there were these things that you would dial up a phone and then you would take the handset and put it down in this device. And it was the same thing as a modem, but you were using a regular phone. And I had seen acoustic couplers at the university, and I knew that technology was coming. And I remember telling my mom in the late '80s, and she was like, "Well, how are you going to do all of this?" And I'm like, "Oh, the farmer can dial up on their phone and put this thing in, and they'll be able to see the radar and see my forecast and all of this." But the fact was, is we were a long ways away from the internet being delivered everywhere. Well, today I have that. I don't need a television station anymore to deliver my message. I can still do it and do it through the internet. I can do it on a website. I can do it through social media, whatever it takes. So I have a lot of hopes that I'm going to be able to spend quite a bit of time delivering what I think is important, and kind of stripping away some of the stuff that we're asked or required to do on television, and get rid of some of that, and just get down to, here's what I think you need to know. Now go live your life.
What about personal life, man? Any big travel plans or hobbies that you plan on putting more time into once you have more time to do so?
I hope so. I've given up every hobby I've ever had, because the weather gig, and especially when you're a chief and in charge of a program and everything, it's 24/7 call, 365. And every time you plan a vacation or plan to go to something, it just tends to get interrupted, it seems like. So looking forward to some of that. I really enjoy the motorsports. I try to get to races when I can. I've been involved in video production for a while. I've put the two together. I produce quite a few videos of racers. I used to chase the Formula One cars with a still camera. Now doing a little more video at drag strips and such. So I hope to do a little more of that. I've been shooting a documentary about a family that drag races. I've been following them around. We'll probably follow them around for another year or two, and put that together. And just time with family. This job, or at least the way I chose to do it, makes you a really lousy family member. I was never around for things. I got called away from things. So I think my family deserves a little more time at this point, too.
What about your replacement, Nick Howson? Do you think he can fill the shoes of the legendary Jim Rasor?
Yeah, I think, that's going to be split between Nick and JC. JC's actually going to move to the evening shift, is my understanding. I've not been involved in a whole lot of those talks, but I hear what's going on. Nick is a really good severe weather analyst, so I know during severe weather, everybody's going to be safe. And JC's a local girl, so she understands what folks here in Southern Illinois are looking for in information. So it will be a change, but I think everything will work out okay.
What about a date? Have you decided what day you'll sign off the air for the final time?
We know I'm under contract through the end of the year, but we were actually in discussions about this back early in this year. And I just plan to take all of my vacation, my time that I had built up, and just take the whole month of December off. So I don't think it's been announced anywhere yet, but I know we're close to. So I can tell you that my last day on air scheduled is the day before Thanksgiving.
Well, Jim, before we start to wrap things up here, I want to give you an opportunity to say a few words to the listening audience out there who have followed your career with WSIL TV3 and have put their trust in you to bring them an accurate forecast day in and day out for the past 30 plus years. Any final words?
As cliche as it is, I mean, thank you. It's real easy to to throw all the bad words out and pick on people that are in any kind of a public spotlight, and it just seems like we see more and more of that. But this community that we talk to, our consumers, if you will, have been very accepting of me. I didn't always do things the way everybody else did. And it just seems like everybody at least accepted that. I don't know if they enjoyed it or appreciated it, but I heard nice things as you go along. We tend to work in a vacuum. I work in a cave with no windows, so it's almost like I'm separated from the whole world. And sometimes all you hear are the complaints that are coming in. But I heard the people that accepted what I was doing. And it was that acceptance then that led me to stay at it for as long as I did. Not many people do this evening shift this long, uninterrupted, and the reason I did is because I knew there were people out there that were watching, and I think they wanted me to be back.
Well, Jim, it's been an honor and a pleasure having you on the show today, sir. Thank you for everything you've done for the WSIL TV3 viewing audience. We applaud you and wish you a safe and blessed retirement.
Thank you so much.